Hello everyone! Well, we know him as an epic war chief and hero to many. Thrall's origins, they begin in a time of great turmoil. It was the time in which Gul'dan of the Burning Legion manipulated the orcs into abandoning the elements in exchange for fell magic and formed the Hordes. All that so that they could be used to exterminate the Draenei on their world of Draenor. But the orcs didn't know this. They thought that they were following the guidance and wisdom of their ancestors. Just a few of them kept their eyes open, looked around and saw the changes that were happening to their planet and their people. Figured that this wasn't right. Amongst those few orcs were Thrall's parents, Durotan and Draka of the Frostwolf clan. They tried to speak out, they tried to protect their people, but there was no hiding for the oncoming storm and the plans of the Legion would be carried out. When the Horde finally did manage to exterminate Prophet Velen and the Draenei, or at least so Gul'dan thought, he abandoned them to their fates. Left them behind on a broken, corrupted world, where basic needs such as food and water were very hard to come by. Devouring demonic blood and using the Fel also had its effects on the orcs, both inside and out, and they were turning on each other. Something had to change real fast, and luckily for the orcs, the Legion wasn't done with them quite yet. Their leader Sargeras figured that they could use the orcs for another plan, for weakening a little planet known as Azeroth, a world that the Burning Legion desperately wanted to conquer. Under his guidance, the Dark Portal was created, and the Horde invaded Azeroth. Now, speaking out against all the things that had happened, it did mean that the Frostwolves eventually got exiled, but seeing how their actions, how their curse even passed on to their children, Durotan and Draka could not stay away, could not let their people be misguided by these dark forces. A secret meeting with their longtime friend Orgrim Doomhammer. It had to make plans of usurping leadership, steering them away from this doomed path. A secret meeting, but not completely unknown. There was a spy within Orgrim's clan who led Draka and Durotan right into the hands of assassins. Trying to save their people would result in their demise. An orphan young Thrall, or Go'el as his parents would have named him. This name Thrall, meaning slave, it was given to him by the man that found him abandoned in the wilds. A dayless Blackmoor came across this gruesome sight. A bunch of dead orcs and an infant left to die, resisting his instincts to immediately slay the child. Daedalus instead decided to take him with him and raise him as a gladiator. This took place just before the First War ended, and Daedalus would become quite the distinguished veteran of the Second War, the war over Azeroth, which was won by the Alliance. And the defeated orcs, they either ran back home, they were slain on the spot, they hid away in small pockets on the world, or they surrendered. Those that chose the last option found themselves locked away within internment camps, and Daedalus' reputation, it had earned him leadership over these prisons, and that's where Thrall would spend his childhood. At least, if they could manage to keep him alive. The ugly little thing it wouldn't eat had grown pale and quiet over the last several days. The beast was dying, which had enraged Blackmoor. Now the answer to his survival came from Tarifa Foxton. Her father had been Blackmoor's servant for 10 years now, and was discussing Thrall's situation with his wife, who served in the kitchens. She had recently given birth to a baby boy, and while listening in, Tarifa thought that the answer was obvious. They were trying to feed a little baby meat. But that's not what babies eat. They drink milk like her baby brother did. And Daedalus had not even considered this. And that's the way orcs were viewed by so many. So alien, so monstrous, that they didn't even consider that there might be similarities. From the mouth of a child came their answer. And after pleading with his wife for a bit, Mrs. Foxton was willing to feed Thrall. Sadly, Tarifa's little brother died of a fever. And when Thrall was old enough to eat a vile concoction of blood, cow's milk and porridge with his own small hands, the guards took him away as well. Tarifa cried then. One brother had passed away, the other was now taken away. She got smacked for the efforts and pretended to never talk about Thrall again. To the outside, she appeared to be the ever-obedient child, but she vowed that she would never forget this strange creature that had almost been like a younger brother to her. Never. She would be one of the few bright lights in Thrall's gruesome life. He wasn't exactly treated with respect or kindness by Blackmoor and the others, as they trained him to become a powerful gladiator. The one in charge of his training was a bit of an exception. This was a massive human going by the name of Sergeant. He had trained thousands of recruits, in which each group he offered them the same challenge: rip his earring from his ear, and they will be allowed to beat him to a pulp. Without warning, Sergeant came at the untrained, unexperienced Thrall, but something inside of him clicked in place. His bulky form always made him feel sluggish and clumsy. Fear of upsetting his master Blackmore or doing something wrong. But here in the arena, within battle, his vision narrowed to one single goal: kill Sergeant, and he got really close. Sergeant's experience and speed did give him a good run for his money, but not even that was enough to hold back the might of this orc. He had nearly squeezed the life out of his trainer, thinking to himself, if only I could get my hands around Blackmore's neck. And that thought made him hesitate, giving the others the chance to throw him off the Sergeant. Yet Sergeant wasn't mad. Quite the opposite. He praised Thrall for getting closer than any had before, but in his rage, he has forgotten about his true objective. His bloodlust would serve him well in some fights, but in the arena, he would have to be more present, more inside his mind rather than his gut. Some foes will have to be slain, while others will have to be spared. Thrall dared to ask the question on his mind. Sergeant, you said sometimes you don't kill? Why not? Sergeant regarded him evenly. It's called mercy, Thrall, he said quietly, and you'll learn about that too. Mercy. Under his breath, Thrall turned the word over his tongue. It was a sweet word, and perhaps Blackmore should have learned it as well. Beatings from his often drunk master were not uncommon for our Thrall, nor was he ever allowed to forget that he was a slave. Later on, another plan formed in Adalis's mind. If he could teach Thrall a little bit more, some tactics, how to read, how to lead, then he could use his slave gladiator to lead the rest of the imprisoned orcs. Not for the greatness of the Alliance, mind you, but for his own gain and power. He could already envision it, ruling from up high. In a different timeline, he might have been successful. Now the one ordered to bring Thrall the books to study with, that was Tarifa, who also snuck in a small, tightly folded piece of parchment. A little note letting him know that she had not forgotten about him. The beginning of many secret letters sent between the human and the orc. Through her letters, Thrall's mind was open to a world beyond his cell. A world of art and beauty and companionship. A world of food beyond rotting meat and slop. A world in which he had a place. He knew that Tari did not have a privileged life. She was a servant in her own way, as much in Thrall as the orc who bore the name. But she did have friends, and she was not spat upon, and she belonged somewhere. Thrall had no people of his own. The only thing that he had left to remind himself of the days with his parents, that was a fraying square of cloth that bore the symbol of a white wolf head on a blue field. Now he could not just walk up to Blackmore and tell him that he was done being a slave, that he was ready to find his own family, and so Thrall remained where he was, fighting his battles in the arena, earning great victories for his master. Things went rather well for Blackmore, and the reputation of his pet orc spread far and wide. One time, he had Thrall fight 9 matches in a row. 8 of those his pet orc had won, each victory bringing home more gold. The 9th was ill-advised. Even Sergeant told Blackmore to let Thrall rest, that it was enough for today, but the drunk Adalis wouldn't hear it. His slave, being tired and injured, was pitted against a massive ogre who kicked the absolute crap out of him, beating Thrall to an inch of his life. The fighters were separated, and Thrall was brought back to his prison. He expected healers to come, as they always did. Sure enough, he had lost the final match, but he did have earned victory in 8 of them, something that he had never done before. But the healers were not the first ones to show up. A severely drunk Blackmore was pissed. 1,000 gold he had lost because of Thrall. Despite his injuries, Blackmore started to kick him and did not stop until the next group came in. A group of guards took their turn beating him up. And this was the thing that broke our Thrall. Broke the chains of his mind that bound him to Adalis. Sergeant had shown up as soon as he heard about the beating and pulled the guards of an unconscious Thrall. He woke up to the healers, and Sergeant gave him praise, was impressed on how he had performed, but it was too little and too late. Never again would he let himself be used like that. Once he would have cringed and vowed to be better, to do something to earn the love and respect that he so desperately craved. Now, he knew that he would never find it here, not as long as Blackmore owned him. He reached for his writing tools and wrote a note to the only person that he could trust. Tari, on the next dark moons, I plan to escape. She was at his side, of course, risking it all to buy him his freedom. A fire was started to distract the guards. A massive black cloak was already waiting for him to hide him in the night. Thrall escaped the place that had kept him imprisoned for so many years and reunited with his sister in spirits. For 10 years now, they'd been riding one another, and now she could finally hug him again. There wasn't a lot of time to talk though, but enough time to realize that her life with Blackmore wasn't easy either. She was the mistress to this cruel man, and hearing what her life with him was like, it filled Thrall with outrage. She couldn't escape with him though. Her life was here in Ner'zhul, while his journey was to find his people.
They call you a monster, but they're the monsters, not you. Farewell, Thrall.
For the first time, our young Thrall tastes freedom, on the quest of finding where he came from, finding where he belonged. It would be best to find other free orcs in the wilds, but he wasn't even sure if those were still a thing. Tarifa had also been kind enough to mark out the other internment camps so that he could avoid them as best as he could, and our Thrall set out for one of those immediately. Along the way, he does get captured by humans that bring him back to one of these camps, which works out rather nicely, except for all of his stuff getting stolen. Inside, he gets to witness the absolute horrible conditions that his people lived in. Huddled everywhere were dozens, perhaps hundreds of orcs. Some of them sat in puddles of their own filth, their eyes unfocused, their sharp-tusked jaws slack. Others paced back and forth, muttering incoherently. Some slept tightly curled up on the earth, seeming not to care even if they were stepped on. There was an occasional squabble, but even that apparently sapped too much energy, for it died down almost as quickly as it begun. This demonic curse that was running through the orc's veins, it had quite the side effects, and he got to chat with few of them, learning more about their history with the Legion, and soon enough he realized that it wasn't the walls or the guards that kept the orcs imprisoned. They had the strength and they had the numbers to fight their way out of there. What they truly lacked was the fire, the will to do so. If he was going to set his people free, he would have to be their fire. Soon enough, word reached Blackmore that the other camp might have his pet orc. With his arrival and a distraction, Thrall manages to use the opportunity to just climb over the walls and get out of there. He was told that Grommash Hellscream and the Warsong clan were still free, were still fighting. They were his next target to find, and soon enough he finds himself being tested to see if he was even worthy to speak with Grum. First, a test of his fighting skills, which our experienced gladiator managed to win. He did not kill them though, despite that being the custom for the Warsongs. Then the second test, a test of will, in which they presented him a small human child. Not a threat to them right now, but the boy would grow up and pick up arms against them. Kill him, Thrall, or we promise you, you will not leave this cave alive. And yet again, Thrall decides to show mercy. Then Grum shows up, impressed by the newcomer. They had fought and slain, even killed children and bathed in their blood. And look at where that got them. Hiding away and living off scraps. Thrall's way was surely a sign of the ancestors. A new path for the orcs to follow. So Grum welcomed Thrall to the Warsong. In the coming days with the Warsong, Grum and Thrall grew close. His Orcish was upgraded, while still speaking with a pretty heavy accent. More details of their past were explained, and the cloth with the Frostwolf symbol, it pointed him towards the Frostwolf clan, and that's where his journey would take him next. Despite Grum wishing to just immediately team up and go liberate their people, winter was coming, and finding the clan of his parents, it was something that Thrall needed to do first. With Blackmore's men moving in closer, it was time for him to leave and journey on to the Alterac Mountains. Their people would have to wait a little bit longer, but liberation would come. Finding his way to the Frostwolf clan, it meant that he could speak with Drekvar, who had taken over leadership of the clan. The blind shaman is able to see more than others, and that small piece of cloth, it tells him all he needs to know. Once more, they test him to see if he was both humble and proud. Humble by not just showing up and immediately demanding a rank just because of his father and his mother, and proud by not letting others just walk over him. Again, he passes the trials, and he learns much about his parents, the Orcish history, the dark bargains with the demons, and how the elements were upset with them for being abandoned in exchange for Fel. It had been many decades since a new shaman had risen up amongst their people, but Thrall had a connection, a strong potential, which soon enough was embraced by the elements. First there was earth, then there was air, fire, water, and finally the fifth, the spirit of the wilds. They all accepted him and would come to his aid when he asked them, and they agreed with his request. One of the first new shaman to rise up amongst the orcs in decades. As the cold winter time passed on, Thrall learned more about the orcs and the customs of his clan. As the name implies, these frost wolves, they have a close bond with wolves, and at one point he goes through a bonding ceremony. They do not simply demand the wolves to obey their wishes. Rather, it's the wolves themselves that pick their lifelong companions. Snowsong chose him, and he knew, without understanding quite how he knew, that she would be by his side until one of them left his life behind. And finally, they were visited by a wandering hermit who taunted Thrall, told him that his plans of liberating their people, that they were foolish. The Frostwolves had the right of it, hiding away in the mountains, far away from the humans. It was their best course of action. Better to live as a coward than to die a hero. Words that enraged our Thrall, and he challenged this newcomer to a fight. What he didn't know was that this hermit was actually Orgrim Doomhammer. His father's longtime friends had been devastated when he found out about their deaths, but he did not let it go to waste. Their warning was the fire he needed to claim leadership of the Horde, lead their people through their war in Azeroth. A war they had obviously lost, and while the others had given up, they've given in to their lethargy. Orgrim was still willing to fight. Grum had told him of the son of Durotan, and he had come to check out if the rumors were true. Considering that it took 8 Frostwolves to drag the enraged Thrall off of him, he got more than he bargained for. But he knew that he had found his second in command, his second to unite the Frostwolves with the war songs and go out to liberate their people. But just riding out and tearing down the walls, it wasn't going to be good enough. Their people needed their fire in their hearts, and Thrall would give it to them. Pretending to be a broken orc, he once again allowed himself to be captured. From within, he shared stories of their history, of what was going on the outside, that there was once again a shaman that walks amongst them. It's definitely not easy, but slowly that spark returns to the eyes of his people, and they follow him to freedom. Camp after camp is liberated, until in one fight, Orgrim is hurt bad, and he passes on not only his armor, not only the legendary weapon called the Doomhammer, he also passed on, despite Thrall believing himself to be unworthy, the title of War Chief.
I am the War Chief. For Doomhammer! For the Horde!
With the numbers they had, it was time to go for the head of the beast and bring Ner'zhul low. The night before the attack, Thrall spoke with his sister Tarifa, warning her of what was to come, but she couldn't stay with them. If she did, Adelis might unleash his anger upon her family, but knowing what was to come, at least she could keep them safe. That was until she sneaked back in and was greeted by her master. He had known about her treachery ever since they had found the letters taken when Thrall was captured first. The next morning, our war chief was greeted by an extremely drunk Adelis Blackmore. Despite their history, Thrall still tried to go for a negotiation. All he wanted was their people to be free. There was no need to throw away lives on either side. I ask you once more, Blackmore, negotiate or die. Blackmore stood up to his full height. Thrall now saw that he held something in his right hand. It was a sack. Here's my answer, Thrall. He reached into the sack and pulled something out. Thrall couldn't see what it was. Then the object came hurtling toward him and struck the ground, rolling to a stop at his feet. Tarifa's blue eyes stared sightlessly up at him from her severed head. That's what I do with traitors, screamed Blackmore, dancing madly on the walkway. That's what we do with people we love who betray us, who take everything and give nothing, who sympathize with double-damned orcs. Thrall didn't hear him. Thunder was rolling in his ears. His knees went weak and he fell to the earth. Gorge rose in his throat and his vision swam. It couldn't be. Not Tari. Surely not even Blackmore could do such an abominable thing to an innocent. But blessed unconsciousness would not come. He remained stubbornly awake, staring at long blonde hair, blue eyes, and a bloody severed neck. Then the horrible image blurred. Wetness poured down his face, his chest heaving with agony. Thrall recalled Tari's words to him so long ago.
These are called tears. They come when we are so sad, so soul sick. It's as if our hearts are so full of pain, there's no place else for it to go.
But there was a place for the pain to go. Into action. Into revenge. Red flooded Thrall's vision now, and he threw back his head and screamed with rage such as he had never before experienced. The cry burned his throat with its raw fury. The sky boiled. Dozens of lightning strikes split the clouds, dazzling the eye for a moment. The furious peals of crashing thunder that followed nearly deafened the men at the fortress. Many of them dropped their weapons and fell to their knees, gibbering terror at the celestial display of fury that so clearly echoed the wrenching pain of the orc leader. Blackmore laughed, obviously mistaking Thrall's rage for helpless grief. When the last peals of thunder died down, he yelled, "They said you couldn't be broken. Well, I broke you, Thrall. I broke you." Thrall's cry died away, and he stared at Blackmore. Even across the distance, he could see the blood drain from Blackmore's face, as his enemy, now, finally began to understand what he had roused with his brutal murder. Thrall had come hoping to end this peacefully, but Blackmore's actions had destroyed that chance utterly. He would not live to see another sunrise, and his keep would shatter like fragile glass before the orcish attack. Thrall. It was Hellscream. Uncertain as to Thrall's state of mind. Thrall, his chest still raw with grief, and tears still streaming down his broad green face, impaled him with his glance. Mingled sympathy and approval showed in Hellscream's expression. Slowly, harnessing his powerful self-control, Thrall raised the great warhammer. He began to stamp his feet, one right after the other, in a powerful, steady rhythm. The others joined him at once, and very faintly, the earth trembled. The powers of the elements under Thrall's command opened the way into the keep, into a final one-on-one duel with his former master, the man who had tried to shackle his heart and his mind, who had taken the life of one so close to him. Their fight, it did not last long, the rage of Tari's death giving him all the strength that he would ever need. But Blackmore didn't die at once. He lay, gasping, fingers impotently clutching his sides as blood pumped out in a staggering rush of reds. He stared up at Thrall, his eyes glazed, blood trickled from his mouth, and to Thrall's astonishment, he smiled. "You are what I made you. I am so proud," he said, and then sagged against the wall. These words stung, but Drekvar explained that Blackmore had been right. Thrall was what he had made him, but so did Tarifa and Sergeant, Hellscream, Doomhammer, Drekvar, and even Snowsong. You are what each battle made you. You are what you have made of yourself. You are the Lord of the Clans. And our Lord led those that surrendered, like Sergeant who had taught him the meaning of mercy. He let them go if they laid down their weapons. Sergeant did so after Thrall finally claimed his earring. He did pass them on a message for the rest of the Alliance, to tell them what had happened this day, to tell them that if they choose the path of peace, they will find us ready to engage in trade and cooperation with them, provided they free the rest of my people and surrender land, good land for our use. If they choose the path of war, they will find an enemy the likes of which they have never seen. And after so many years of searching, Thrall finally knew where his true destiny lay, knew deep in his bones who he was. Thrall, son of Durotan, war chief of the Horde, he had come home. He has become the Lord of the Clans, but there were still many of his people in need of liberation. From camp to camp, this newly formed Horde moved, liberating legends like Eitrigg. Now, having Thrall as the war chief, it meant that the Horde had another shot, another chance at carving out a piece of land and call it home. The event of the past would never be forgotten, but they could be better. Let go of the shackles placed upon them by the Burning Legion. Unfortunately, the Legion wasn't quite done with them yet, nor were they done with trying to conquer the planet. One night, War Chief Thrall receives a visit in his dreams by a mysterious prophet.
Heroes arise to challenge fate and lead their brethren to battle. as mortal armies rush blindly towards their doom. The burning shadow comes to consume us all. You must rally the Horde and lead your people to their destinies. Seek me out.
Prophet Medivh has come to clean up the mess that he made, since once upon a time he was corrupted by Sargeras, brought the Horde in to begin with. Now he too has a second chance to stop the tide of darkness, move the pieces on the board so that they will be ready to defend the world against the Legion. Now Thrall couldn't make much sense of what this stranger was telling him, but he too could sense the return of the demons, with the spirits telling him to trust Medivh. He went to work, bringing together his Horde forces, including Gromash Hellscream, who got captured by the humans.
Bron, are you alright?
I'm fine, little brother. Luckily, they only injured my pride.
With the use of some stolen Alliance vessels, they then made their way towards Kalimdor. En route, they got caught in a sudden fierce storm, with no other choice but to seek shelter in a cove of a nearby remote island. That's the place where Thrall met with Sen'jin, leader of the Darkspear Trolls and father to Vol'jin. The Trolls were having a bit of trouble with humans occupying their islands, as well as the local Murlocs. The sea creatures, they'd started to worship a sea witch, a Naga, as we would discover many years later. They captured Thrall and Sen'jin, sacrificed the troll for the glory of Zar'jira. Now our former gladiator does his best trying to save his friends, but it's already too late.
The vision told me you would lead my people off this island. You don't have much time, young one. Go.
But you and your people are coming with us.
It'd be too late. I'm already gone.
Those of you who wish to follow me will face many dangers. It will not be easy. But if you wish to join us, you are welcome.
Yeah, man. Pretty soon there'll be nothing left here anyway. We come with you.
Quickly, they leave the devastation of the island behind in search of destiny. After a couple of weeks on rough seas, the Horde does make it to Kalimdor, but they got separated from each other. Things aren't exactly more peaceful in this new patch of land, and soon enough, Thrall's forces find themselves squaring off against the Centaur.
I am Cairn, chief of the Bloodhoof Tauren. You greenskins fight with both savagery and valor. I am intrigued.
I am Thrall, and these are my brethren, the Orcs. We've come seeking the destiny promised to us.
Seeking destiny? It will find you in time, young one. However, there is an oracle far to the north which might be able to...
North? But there's an army of the horsemen marching north.
What? No. My village is in danger.
I must know more about this oracle. Follow them! Protect Cairn at all costs!
Cairn wants to take his people to the grassy lands of Mulgore, which is a bit tricky with the Centaur on the warpath. Thrall helps them out, make sure that the people stay safe. In return, Cairn points him towards the Stone Talon Peaks, where the Prophet is rumored to be. However, Thrall's not the only one on this journey. Medivh has also made contact with Miss Jaina Proudmoore. She has witnessed firsthand the death that the Legion brought to the lands of Lordaeron, but old hatreds are not easily forgotten.
Assault wagon in a battle of humans.
What? Loktar warriors! Hellscream needs help!
Wretched orcs. How dare you follow us to this land?
Save your breath, human. You needed to scream when I start tearing off your limbs.
Finally reunited with Grum, Thrall notices that something is off in his brother. The return of the Legion, it has its effects on the orcs, and the bloodlust takes hold. Where once Grum could see that Thrall's way was the way forward for their people, he now falls back into their old habits of death and destruction. Ignoring his warchief's commands, Thrall sees no other choice but to send Grum away for a bit, while he deals with the profits.
With these, we can reach Stone Talon Peak by morning.
A true warrior would simply take the pass from the humans.
Have you lost what's left of your mind, Grom? I gave you a direct order to leave the humans alone. What the hell is wrong with you?
Don't lecture me, pup. The wretches deserved death. Don't you feel it, Thrall? It's like the old days, like the demons are near.
I don't know what's come over you and your men, but this bloodlust is a liability that I can't afford.
I'm sorry, Thrall. You're right. I can handle it.
I can't take that chance, Grom. Take your clan into the northern forest and build us a settlement. I'll come and find you after we've reached the Oracle.
Hellscream was a bit pissed off at being sent away to do manual labor and get them a base. Thankfully for him, the lands they've entered are those under the protection of the Night Elves, who do not take kindly to these strangers in the lands that have started chopping down their forest. Even their demigod Cenarius shows up to protect the wilds, and that's exactly what the Legion had hoped for. Cenarius, in ages past, had been a great opposition. If they could get the orcs to take care of him, then that would make their path for conquest all the easier. So it was that Manoroth placed a little trap. He left behind a bit of his demonic blood. This is the same demonic blood that the orcs drank back on Draenor, Gromash being the first to accept it. Despite this going against all that Thrall stood for, Grum and his orcs, they embraced the gift once again, gaining the power to slay Cenarius, secure victory for the Horde, but also placing themselves firmly back in the hands of the Legion.
I've come to bring you and your brethren back into the fold. Though you orcs failed the Burning Legion before, you will now serve us once again. No. We are free. Stupid, pitiful creature. I am the rage in your heart. I am the fury of your thoughts. I alone empowered you to bring chaos to this world, and by the endless void you shall.
Thrall's unaware of any of this, and after a bit of a rough journey, finally arrives at the Stone Teller Mountains, where he runs into Cairn again.
Cairn, what are you doing here?
Our debt to you orcs can only be repaid with blood. We've come to help you reach the Oracle. However, those metal-clad pinkskins look like trouble.
Those pinkskins are called humans. They are our enemies from across the sea. They seem intent on keeping us from the peak.
The Oracle's wisdom belongs to all. Perhaps the wyverns that live nearby can be of use to us. They have no love for hostile intruders. Hold, Warchief.
That's the young sorceress Grom told me about. It appears that she seeks the Oracle as well.
Be wary, young one. That cave is the perfect spot for an ambush.
Don't worry, Cairn. I was raised by the humans. I know their tricks and stratagems. There's no way that I'll let them stop me from reaching the Oracle.
There are two paths inside a mountain, so they have to split up for a bit, clear the way, avoid dangerous traps, until their long journey comes to an end, and they finally meet with the mysterious Oracle.
Orcs. I knew that we were being followed. Defend yourselves!
Stop! There will be no violence in this place.
That voice. You're no Oracle. You're the Prophet.
Very perceptive, son of Durotan. I am the Prophet. And now that I've lured you all here, I will tell you what destiny holds.
What the hell is going on here?
Thrall, this is Jaina Proudmoore, leader of the survivors of Lordaeron.
Survivors? What are you talking about?
The invasion of the Burning Legion has begun. Lordaeron has already fallen, and now the demons come to invade Kalimdor. Only together, united against the Shadow, will you be able to save this world from the flame.
Unite with them? Are you mad?
Have you heard nothing that I've said? The Legion comes to undo history and end all life. Thrall, your friend Hellscream has already fallen under the demon's influence. Soon he and your whole race will be lost forever.
No. I'll die before I let that happen.
Then you must rescue him immediately. He is the key to the destiny I promised you. However, you will need help.
Wait, this is insane. You can't possibly expect me
Destiny is at hand, young sorceress. The time to choose has come. For the fate of all who live, humanity must join forces with the Horde.
Orcs and humans working together. It was a crazy notion, considering their long history. But if there were any people to make it happen, it was gonna be Jaina and Thrall. Even as a child, she never saw the orcs as the monsters that the others saw them as. And for Thrall, people like Rifa, they showed him that there was good and kindness to be found, even amongst the humans. So it was that these two put old hatreds aside, worked together to save the world. First step would be to save Grum from the Legion.
Destiny is at hand. Lord Manaroth is our master now.
Who? You're not talking sense.
Ah, Thrall. You always believed that the demons corrupted our race, but that's only half true. We gave ourselves up willingly on Draenor. The other chieftains and I, we drank Manaroth's blood, Thrall. We brought this curse upon ourselves.
You did this to our people knowingly? Gah!
A small detail that I guess they never told Thrall before. The orcs willingly accepted the demonic blood, but at the same time, they didn't know the full consequences, believing that this was a gift from the ancestors, the path that the spirits wanted them to follow. Now a short battle later, and Grum is back at camp, sanity restored, but not yet entirely free.
Thrall, I see clearly now. I'm sorry. I am so sorry.
To hell with your apologies! Right now, I need you to help me save our people.
Manaroth. We must face Manaroth in the canyon.
Then let's go. I don't want to keep the bastard waiting.
So predictable. I knew you would come. And I see you brought the mighty Hellscream. His blood is mine. As is your whole misbegotten race. The boy believed you could be saved, but he didn't know what burns within your soul. Within your heart, you know we are the same. blood haze has lifted. The demon's fire has burnt out in my veins. I have freed myself. No, old friend. You freed us all.
For so long, the orcs had to deal with a demonic curse, but no longer. Gromash Hellscream, Thrall's brother in arms, has heroically sacrificed his own life to set them all free. A small setback for the Legion, yet their plans of conquest push forward all the same. Taking on their ancient enemy, the Night Elves, and setting their sights on the World Tree Nor'drossil at Mount Hyjal. It's there where Medivh's plans come together. Thrall and Jaina, despite not all the orcs and humans being exactly happy with the situation, they are working together. They join their forces with Malfurion Stormrage and Tyrande Whisperwinds. Their force combined, they hold off Archimonde as long as they can, while Malfurion and his druids prepare a little trap.
You orcs are weak and hardly worth the effort. I wonder why Manaroth even bothered with you.
Our spirit is stronger than you know, demon. If we are to fall, then so be it. At least now, we are free.
The wretched little whelp actually hurt me. Are there none left to stand against the Legion?
His arrogance would be his downfall, as Archimonde had no idea that by the time they reached Nor'drossil, it was already too late. At Malfurion's command, the spirits detonated, blowing up the tree, the Night Elf's immortality, and the powers locked inside. The Dark Commander of the Legion's forces was sent back to where he came from, and the world of Azeroth, with great sacrifice, it was saved. What had seemed to be impossible to do had actually worked out. But now, Thrall and Jaina would have to go on a quest that was even less likely to succeed. They wanted to keep the unity going, show the world that peace between the Alliance and Horde was indeed possible, that Thrall's Horde was not the same as the first one that had showed up to conquer the world. While she took the survivors and set up base within Faramore, Thrall took his people and they settled in an area that they called Durotar, named after his father Durotan. His original message to the Alliance was a demand that they give him some good land for his people. To the north, there was Ashenvale, plenty of resources for the taking. Instead, they settled here, which wasn't exactly a comfy or beautiful land to stay in. The reason behind that is that it would enable his people to atone for the harm that they had done, and this land would toughen and strengthen them as well. It suits them, in Thrall's mind at least, because it is so harsh, because it is so brutal, because few beings other than orcs could wrest the living from it. With the aid of the Goblin Gaslow, they then built up the capital city of Orgrimmar, named after Orgrim Doomhammer, but just decided one day that there would be peace between the humans and orcs, would not let everybody just forgive and forget the events of the past. Soon enough, Jaina's father, Admiral Dalen Proudmoore, shows up. No matter what his daughter says, he only sees the orcs of the past, a threat to take care of. She wasn't able to convince him otherwise, so instead, she decided to step aside, let Thrall do what had to be done. In the meantime, our war chief has received some aid from the Magnaval Rexxar. Rexxar had been part of the original Horde. He had fought side by side with orcs like Gromash. But that darkness that was within, the treachery of the Horde, it had him part ways. Believing that only the animals and the wilds could be trusted. But a fate encounter, it had to return to society and see this new vision that Thrall had for their people. After helping out with some odd jobs here and there, gain allies like the Pandaren Chant Stormstout, save the life of Bane Bloodhoof, or helping out the trolls and figuring out what was going on with the humans. Rexxar is truly a champion of the Horde. He was then given the honor of carrying their banner into battle as they made ready to claim the head of Dalen.
Thrall, Rexxar, I come in peace. You must believe me, I had no part in my father's plans. I wish none of this had ever happened. I don't know what to do.
We've bled together on many battlefields, Jaina. We've faced untold perils as allies. But your father threatens the security of our nation and the very future of my people. You know how this has to end.
I know, Thrall. Do what you must. There is a goblin shipyard on a nearby island that could provide you with warships of your own. With those, you could scatter the blockade surrounding Theramore. But please, spare my men if you can. My father will try to use them against you, but they're the only real family I'll have left when this is over. Please do this. For me.
We'll do all we can, Jaina. You have my word. Now you'd better make yourself scarce. The battle's about to begin.
Our forces are ready, Thrall. It's now or never.
See it done, Rexar. I'll meet you at Theramore.
I must admit, you orcs are more tenacious than I remembered. I thought you savages would have turned on each other by now.
This is not the Horde you remember, old man. We have no interest in conquest or murder. We have paid for the sins of our forebears in blood.
Can your blood atone for genocide, orc? Your Horde killed countless innocents with its rampage across Stormwind and Lordaeron. Do you really think you could just sweep all that away and cast aside your guilt so easily? No, your kind will never change, and I will never stop fighting you.
By fang and claw! Unleash my strength! It's over. Stand down, humans.
Father, why wouldn't you listen?
Above all else, Jaina, he was a proud warrior. Remember him as such.
Durotar is now safe. We have no further quarrel with these humans. We will leave your isle in peace, Jaina. I pray we never have to come here again. Farewell, Sources.
Peace has been secured for the moment, but this is World of Warcraft after all. Warchief Thrall now faces the immense task of caring for his horde, his ever-growing family, with many threats from both within and without.
4 years have passed since the mortal races banded together and stood united against the might of the Burning Legion. Though Azeroth was saved, the tenuous pact between the Horde and the Alliance has all but evaporated.
After uniting with Jaina and the Night Elves, Thrall and his horde, they've set a base in the lands of Durotar, with their capital of Orgrimmar. Not just liberated orcs are part of their family. We also have the Tauren, who are led by Cairn. The Darkspear Trolls, led by Vol'jin, who was taken over for his father Sen'jin. And then there's the Forsaken, led by the Dark Lady Sylvanas Windrunner. Thrall had sympathy for her and her followers. The orcs had once been corrupted as well, and that had been a hard legacy to overcome. But he also recognized that strategic value of the Forsaken. They lived in the ruins of Lordaeron, a valuable foothold in the Eastern Kingdoms, should the Alliance ever provoke war again. And for the Forsaken, they cared little even for their allies. To them, the Horde is merely a tool that may further their dark schemes. They're forever focused on their one goal, claiming vengeance upon the one who made them Forsaken to begin with.
As a proud defender of Durotar, it is your duty to crush your enemies, both seen and unseen.
As Warchief, Thrall leads his newly formed horde through the dangers of classic World of Warcraft, dealing with threats like the Burning Blade Cult, the Loa Hakar, Nefarian in Blackwing Lair, and the so-called Dark Hordes. We saw epic heroes rise up amongst the factions, and under his leadership, the Alliance and Horde were even able to combine their forces, take on something like the old god Cthulhu. It was crazy to think that these longtime enemies could actually unite and put fear in the hearts of the old gods. But they did, dreaming of a world beyond the one they had now, in which all of them had their place. But their dark history was a difficult one to shake, and soon enough the Legion would come poking around again. The Dark Portal reopened, and for the first time Thrall was able to visit the planet that his people came from. Draenor, or Outland as it was called these days. It had transformed quite a bit, but there was one place that was still very similar, the beautiful lands of Nagrand. That's where he met with his grandmother Geisha, in the village of Jaradar, named after his grandfather. Meeting her would change the Warchief's life forever, filling him in on stories of his parents that he had never known, of his people and the life that he used to have. She even told him his true name, Go'el, the name that his parents would have given him. And in exchange, Thrall had something to teach as well. Jaradar's leader was Garrosh, son of Grum, and our Hellscream knew very little of his father. He was left behind here when he was too sick to join the original's Horde invasion, so he had no clue what happened to his father. All he remembered was the man that stepped up to be the first to drink the demonic blood, lead their people into the clutches of the demons. Thrall was quick to tell him that his father was actually a hero, had sacrificed himself to take down the Pit Lord Manoroth, liberate their people of the blood curse. After living in the shadow of shame, this filled Garrosh's heart with pride, and Thrall saw much potential in the young Hellscream. Sure enough, he was brash and quick to anger, but Thrall believed that his fierce pride and knowledge of Orcish culture, that it could serve the Horde well, and so it was that Garrosh came back with him as his advisor.
For the Horde!
Right there at his side, when Jaina Proudmoore invited Thrall and Varian Rin over to come to Fedamore for a peace meeting, to negotiate and have talks about the future, to bring the Alliance and Horde closer. Thrall and Jaina were both lovers of peace. Although some nasty rumors surrounded them, it kinda left out the peace portion. Nothing like that has ever happened, for at least as far as we know. They're just real close, considering all that they've been through, and they act like a bridge between the factions. Now, despite some initial hurdles, the meeting was actually going rather well. Varian and Thrall were able to see eye to eye, see the benefits of cooperation rather than hostility. Outside forces saw this as well, made quick work of it, made sure that they wouldn't join forces, and accusations were quickly tossed around. Safe to say, there would be no peace in Warcraft today, as both sides returned home to make ready for the next war. Arthas the Lich King had woken up, and his undead scourge roams the land. We'll have to take the fight to Northrend, put more of their people at risk, and while Sylvanas and Garrosh were ready to go, Thrall was a bit hesitant to do so. His soul burned for revenge, but the elements tell him to think clearly. The Lich King is a ruthless opponent after all, one who must be handled carefully. If he does have any traps for us, we should know about them first, not just blindly walk into them. Hellscream can't believe this cowardice. If he was in charge, he would first conquer the humans, who are as nothing to the might of the Hordes, and then send their force to Northrend to crush this puny Lich King and his undead army. The Horde should rule all of Azeroth, and Thrall could feel that Garrosh was close to challenging his leadership. It would be best to force his hand before support for his ideas could grow, so he goaded him on a bit. Don't make the same mistake as your father, Garrosh, Thrall warns him, and that pushed the dab button just right, challenging his warchief to Mak'gora, a duel of honor, traditionally to the death, but no longer, as Thrall had made sure to change those rules. In the arena they clash, with Garrosh being no match to Thrall's elemental mastery. But there would be no clear winner to their fights, as the Lich King's forces dared to invade Orgrimmar. The issue had resolved itself, as they clearly had no other choice but to stand united and face the undead armies head-on. Thrall even decided to make Hellscream overlord of their offensive, with Varrock Saurfang at his side to advise him along the way. Now, despite the Alliance and Horde not really working together, they still made great progress with the campaigns into Northrend. That is, until they combined their forces and assaulted the Wrathgate.
Behold now, the terrible vengeance of the Forsaken!
Sylvanas Windrunner and the Forsaken, they've been working really hard on getting their revenge. A special surprise was crafted. A plague designed to wipe out not only the living, but also the undead. It was unleashed upon all down below. Alliance, Horde, and Arthas the Lich King. Now, Sylvanas claims that she'd been betrayed, that the attack was not on her orders, that she's been kicked out of her own city. Not everyone believes her entire story, but those are worries for later. What is clear is that a whole bunch of their forces got wiped out, which didn't exactly make things between the factions any stronger. And the Undercity has been taken away from her. Separately, the factions go into clean house and claim their revenge.
Blood and thunder, champions of the Horde! We fight on this day for our fallen brothers and sisters. Mourn them not, for they all died with honor in their hearts. Great wind, brother, clear our path. Great water spirit, wash away this corruption. Attack!
The shaft is trapped, Warchief. A fall would mean certain death.
The spirits of air have heard my call. Cyclones will lower us to safety. Now we jump. Coward! You think to stop the war chief of the Horde with pebbles? I will show you the true power of the elements. Great spirits of the earth, help us in our hour of need. What is this?
Welcome to your future. What little there is left of it.
May my aim be true.
Too long. Tireless, endless planning. It will not end like this. One more time. The Master is near. Such power. Can you not feel it, mortals? Cease this foolishness and join me. I will not fail. Not again.
My aim be true. Let none survive. Let none survive. May my aim be true.
I cannot hold. Destabilizing.
You have failed me, Vadimothras.
1,000 pardons, Master. I will deal with these intruders myself. Years wasted.
We are victorious! The Undercity belongs to the Horde once more! Loktar! Dark Lady, join me. You have fought hard and spilled much blood for this right.
Such will be the fate of all enemies of the Horde, War Chief. Now we must deal with the wretch, Putress.
We shall, Sylvanas. Alliance horns. Stay on guard!
I was away for too long. My absence cost us the lives of some of our greatest heroes. Trash like you and this evil witch were allowed to roam free, unchecked. But the time has come to make things right, to disband your treacherous kingdom of murderers and thieves. Putress was the first strike. Many more will come. I've waited a long time for this, Thrall. For every time I was thrown into one of your damned arenas. For every time I killed a green-skinned aberration like you. I could think of only one thing. What our world could be without you and your twisted Horde. It ends now, War Chief. Attack! For Stormwind! For Bolvar!
Varian, no! Stop! It did not have to be like this.
It ends like it began. All that we have fought for in this world is lost. The hopes and dreams carried by my father and mother, by Doomhammer, gone. If only you were here right now, old friend, you would know what to do.
I know what he would do. He would say to you, Thrall, lead your people. Let's go home, old friend.
Quite the blow for all that Thrall had worked for. And what happened in the Undercity here today? It made him leave behind some of his core cron, his elite fighting force, and personal bodyguard of the War Chief, to make sure to keep an eye on Sylvanas and her people. His dreams for the future, they seem near impossible. Not with someone like Varian Wynn in charge. Not with forces from within and without, trying their very best to keep the factions separate. It did make for some interesting storytelling though, having Varian be the aggressor with his own background and motivations. Thrall and Jaina trying to get them to cooperate, and then Garrosh being very similar to Varian, constantly coming to blows, even when the fate of the entire world is at stake.
Yogg-Saron has awakened.
I want to see this dwarf. Garrosh, to see the fear in his eyes. Then we'll know if he's telling the truth.
No, wait!
We are going to need all the help we can get if we are...
Thrall!
What are they doing here?
Let me explain.
I thought I smelled the stench of Alliance pigs. Control yourself.
You want my blood? Come then, dog.
He's mine.
Stop it!
We have all lost! A great deal in this conflict. But we stand to lose everything if we do not stop fighting and work together!
A true war chief would never partner with cowards.
At the Wrathgate, the Horde's partnership killed more of our men than the Scourge. I'm done with your Horde. May this Death God take you all. You disappoint me, Garrosh.
Time and again, we can clearly see that Thrall and Garrosh have some different views when it comes to the future of the Horde and their relationship with the world. Luckily, heroes amongst the factions took it upon themselves to join Tyrion Fordring, prove their worth, take on the Lich King. Despite their differences, Thrall still rewarded Garrosh for his successful campaign into Northrend. Underneath the shadow of the armor and skull of Manoroth, Garrosh was granted Gorhal, the weapon of his father, the blade that had set their people free, but also took the life of the noble demigod Cenarius. Like any weapon, it could be used for good or ill. I charge you with being the best of your father, Garrosh, with using this weapon wisely and well, for the good of your people. The war chief still sees great promise within Hellscream, and within a different timeline, he might have been right. In this one, we saw the coming of the Cataclysm, Deathwing breaking out of the world, which caused a whole bunch of death and destruction. Before his arrival, the world could already sense something was up. The elements were in turmoil, and so the war chief of the Horde thought that it was best to take a little trip back home, to go back to Outlands. Perhaps there, under the guidance of his great mother Geisha, he could further his knowledge and power, heal the world that he had come to love, and make sure to protect his people. That did mean that someone else would have to take over leadership of the Horde for a while. The potential that he saw, it made him pick Hellscream, despite many voices, Garrosh himself, wondering if this was the right choice. Cairn tried to change Thrall's mind on this one, with wisdom and knowledge earned over his many years. But the war chief wouldn't budge. He left his longtime friends and brother behind with angry words, hoping that the advisors surrounding Garrosh could keep him on the right path. Soon enough, Cairn and Garrosh were butting heads with each other. Accusations and arguments flared up until they ended up in the arena. Again, a Mak'gora, but with the use of the ancient rules. None of that staying alive crap that Thrall had added. Cairn would have won the fight as well, was it not for Magalfa Grim Totem secretly adding some poison to Gorhal. The old Tauren that had lived his life with honor had died betrayed. None of that had reached Thrall quite yet. In the Grand, he met with his grandmother, but she would not be the one to guide him on this path. Agra, an extremely gifted shaman, would take him under her wing. But Agra wasn't exactly fond of Thrall, nor did she get why he kept his slave name. I am war chief of the Horde, shaman, and I have made the Alliance fear the name that once meant slave. To them, it now means the glory and power of the Hordes. I would ask you to use the name I have chosen to keep. And so she did, while offering a whole bunch of slight remarks. He swallowed them, remaining ever focused on learning what they had to teach, on figuring out some sort of solution for the problems back home. Eventually, she guides him through a vision quest, a spiritual journey. Not in the armor of Doomhammer, the outfit of a war chief. He would have to shed his skin and be here as a shaman completely, with initiate robes and prayer beads to reconnect with his inner self. With Spirit Wolf Agra at his side, he then sees himself fighting in the arena as a slave. the time in which the element of fire had picked him, the first of the elements to do so. His passion and fury that had earned him many victories and allowed him to get out of there. Then there was water, in the form of the Riva Foxton. It pained him to look at it again, as just recently the world had to deal with the Emerald Nightmare, and our war chief, he had found himself trapped within one, forced to relive her death over and over again. Deep within him, there was guilt for what happened to her. He should have done more, he should have done something to save her, but perhaps this was her fate, Agra told him. Perhaps she had done everything that she was supposed to do. Give him exactly what he needed to be pushed into action. There was, after all, nothing else he could have done, and her gifts would always be within him. Earth was shown to him as being grounded together with Drekvar, huddled over a fire. The home and family that he had found amongst the Frostwolves, the connection to his shamanism. This was his place of peace, one in which not even Agrazi marks could hit him. Finally, there was air, the wisdom and clarity of Thoth, which has allowed him to build strong connections, like the one with Cairn and the Tauren, or Jaina and the humans. As the elements passed, there was only one left, and Thrall asked the question on his mind. Will I be able to save Azeroth? The Horde? Thrall saw himself wearing the black armor that Orgrim Doomhammer had passed on to him as leader of the Horde. He carried that late Orc's great weapon, looking every inch the warrior. But there was fear on his green face. Fear and a terrible sense of loss. The Doomhammer split into several chunks, each piece hurling away as if they'd been fired from a gun. The armor cracked and fell off, and Thrall fell to his knees, clad only in what he wore now, the simple brown robe of an initiate. With fear in his heart, he returned to the waking world, unsure what the vision had meant. The next day, they traveled to the Throne of Elements to ask the mighty Furies for clarity and aid, but they can't do very much. They can barely help out to corrupt the paint elements on their own worlds, let alone those far away on Azeroth. The Fury of Winds advises him to think on his quest, on what was shown. Fire burns a passion in his heart, a blessing to help him heal the world, which was an honor not even shown to Agra. Water lets him weep and truly feel for when he would be ready to heal the wound in his soul. Then finally Earth, Gordog, is able to share a bit more on what's going on back home. He chews on a piece of Azeroth that Thrall always carries with him, and he can sense the pure fear that the element is feeling. A fear that he has tasted before, just before Draenor transformed into Outlands. The elements are afraid of being shattered, Deathwing breaking out of the world. Thrall now has a deeper connection to the elements than he had ever had before, and he's now ready to go back home and do what he can to save it. By the time that he got back to Great Mother Geisha, a messenger arrived informing him on all that went down with Garrosh in charge. The death of his brother Cairn, it hits him deeply.
Garrosh! Cairn was my brother!
And yet, he can't return to the position of war chief yet. Azeroth needs him. Of this he is sure, and he wouldn't go back on this quest alone. At his side, there's now Agra, no longer just pissed off and mean at him. She'd grown up on stories of Durotan and Draka, and she'd very much wanted to be like his mother, a warrior maid. Then their son had returned to their lands, which had excited her, but he didn't stay. Then he returned again, but only to seek out their hard-earned knowledge. Not even to save the home world, but this alien place of Azeroth. She had been pissed off about that. But their vision quest together, it showed her the real orc behind it all. The real reasoning, the big heart that felt responsible for an entire world. She wanted to come with him, but not if he was gonna wallow in self-pity. He had chosen the possibility of victory by coming here, over the certainty of defeat if he had stayed. Our former war chief recognizes the wisdom in her words, and he would love to have it at his side. Together they returned, first up being Cairn's funeral. As he says goodbye to his brother, he understands the vision that was shown to him. If he continued to walk the path of war chief, he was going to fail, and so he takes off the Doomhammer armor and once again adorns himself in robes and beads. Just at that moment, Deathwing breaks out of the maelstrom and the cataclysm hits in force. Thrall had been called, and he would go. Not as war chief, but as himself. As Thrall, son of Durotan and Draka, shaman.
Elements guide me. For honor and glory. For the Horde. Let's move.
En route to the maelstrom now, following the guidance of the elements to meet up with the Earthen Ring. This is a collaboration of shamans across the factions, but it seems like not everybody has gotten the memo that Thrall is no longer war chief of the Hordes.
This is all your fault. We were supposed to have these stupid slaves to Kalimdor days ago.
I'm not taking the fall for this one. You're the one who got us lost.
What does it matter? Gallywix is gonna have both our heads.
Shh! Did you hear that?
Captain, who are they?
It doesn't matter. Our orders are to capture the Horde target at all costs. No witnesses.
Abandon ship! Make for the escape pod!
The Alliance captures him, making sure that there are no witnesses. But the goblins of Kazan had just abandoned their islands, which was rather lucky for Thrall. They set the shaman free, and then worked together to get off the islands. He points them towards Garrosh and the Hordes, for some reason allowing Gallywix to stay on as their leader, despite the Trade Prince wanted to sell his people into slavery. Nothing beats a good profit after all. So after that minor detour, Thrall and Agra arrive at the Maelstrom, the spot where Deathwing had broken out of the world. Working together with the other shamans to restore balance to the elements. Day and night they performed their rituals, but all of them ended in failure. Not just because the damage that was done, our Thrall was also to blame. There was the Death of Cairn, his connections to the Horde, and the ongoing affairs of the world. But there was also the question of his own identity, of continuously planning ahead for the next day, rather than living in the here and now. He had always been able to hide himself behind the mantle of War Chief, and any disagreements, critique or challenges, they were given to him with the proper respect that his position awarded him. Even his name, Thrall, it made him a slave to the Horde, rather than the true name of Go'el, given to him at birth. Harsh words and harsh discussion followed, from both the Earthen Ring and his beloved Agra herself, challenging himself with the simple question: if you do not know who you are, how can you know what to do? He might have dropped the armor of Doomhammer and his title, but changing himself, it wasn't going to be that easy. A new road of uncertainty spread out in front of him, and guiding him along that path was the green dragon Ysera. She'd been wandering the Emerald Dream for quite a while, earning herself the title of the Dreamer. But now she is the Awakened, knowing about many visions and dreams, but it's all hazy and confusing. She can't tell the truth from the dream herself. All she knows is that Thrall has an important role to play, and she sets him on a task. A small task even. One that he would have rejected in favor of staying here at the Maelstrom, had it not come from the Aspect herself and some wisdom and guidance from Agra. From a small seed grew an epic journey that put him on the path of helping out the Aspects and causing them to reunite.
I'm coming to help!
The Bronze Dragon Aspect Nosdormu, while investigating the Timeways and discovering that the Old Gods were responsible for Deathwing's corruption, had been chipping away at their strengths and unity for thousands of years, he now found himself trapped within his own domain. Thrall went in to look for him, and while cruising the Timeways, he saw the death of his own parents. But he also ran into a Tarifa, who had lived a rather different life. In her Timeway, Thrall had died at a very early age, and so Adelis had to rely on his own strength to make his dreams come true, conquering Orgrim Doomhammer himself in battle, and claiming Lordaeron as his own. The orcs in this reality were enslaved to his will. Eventually, Thrall figures out that Nosdormu is trapped here because he is in all the Timeways and none of them at the same time. The past and the future, while he needed to live within the moment, see what's in front of him and ground himself. That's right, in this book, Thrall goes around teaching the Aspects how to be Aspects. Then he moves on to aid the Blue Dragons with picking up the new Aspects. Most of them wanted to use reason and cold logic to make the decision, but Thrall helped convince them to trust their hearts instead. In doing so, they chose Caligos over Eregos, son of Malygos. In response, Eregos attacked his own kind, as unbeknownst to all of them, he was actually in league with Deathwing. An army of Twilight Dragons assaulted the Nexus, but with Thrall's aid, their attack failed. Then he moved on to help out Alexstrasza, who was currently dealing with a whole lot of grief. Her beloved consort Corielstras, he had blown himself up to save the Dragon Eggs from corruption. The Queen of the Dragons did not know this, and some voices dared to question if Krezus had perhaps betrayed them. She was ready to give up on life and just die in Desolace. That is, until Thrall showed up, shared with her a vision granted to him by the Spirit of Life. The truth of what went down in their sanctums, revealing the heroic sacrifice that Corielsus had made. Her heart cracks open as tears welled in her eyes while she grieved for her lost love, finally weeping the healing tears that had been locked inside her shuttered heart. There was going to be more grieving to be done for all that had been lost, and he knew that she would do so. But not now. Now, the Lifebinder was using her pain to fuel action, not tears, and Thrall almost felt a twinge of pity for those who would feel the heat of her fury. She'd go on reuniting with the other aspects, kicking some massive Twilight booty, and deal with the threat of Chromatus. All with the aid of Thrall, of course. Our shaman had accomplished epic things on this quest that started out so very small. In the process, he also changed himself. His journey to the far corners of the world, it brought him inner peace, strengthened his connection with the elements. He learned to focus on the present, rather than worry about the decisions that he had made in the past, or the uncertainties that awaited him and the rest of Azeroth in the future. And throughout it, he was able to reflect on himself, realize some truths, and above all, there was Agra on his mind. The aspects had gifted him their skills, their friendship, and a quick ride back to the Maelstrom. There he told her that she'd been right. He was hiding behind the mantle of Warchief, a thrall to the Horde, to what he thought was his duty, and that had kept him from looking too deeply at himself and seeing things that he did not like. And if I didn't do that, I couldn't change them. I couldn't become better. I couldn't truly appreciate either the great things or the little things, like this strong hand in mine. I do appreciate these things now, Agra. Every raindrop, every shaft of sunlight, every breath that fills my lungs, every beat of my heart. There is peril, and there is pain, but there is also quiet, constant joy, if we just remember and know that it is there. I did not know who I was, or who Thrall would become, after leaving all I had built. But I do now. I know who I am. I know what I must do. I know who I want. And I know in my heart that when the time is right, I will be able to do what is necessary. No longer a thrall, except to himself and the one he loved. The former warchief of the Horde now goes by the name of Go'el, and he asked her if she would have him for the rest of their lives. His love was reflected back in her face. Of course she would. She'd been willing to follow Thrall to the end of this world or any other. How much more would she be willing to bind her life to Go'el's?
Do you think it will work, Go'el? The druids and shaman uniting to restore the world tree? Would it actually heal this broken world?
The aspects believe it will, and they should know. They grew it in the first place.
Welcome, son of Gul'dan. And to you, Agrelon of the Frostwolves. Lady Sarah.
Greetings, friends. A sense of vast power has grown within you, young Thrall. You've achieved much since last we met.
Master Stormrage, it's good to have you back in the waking world.
Friends, we have gathered here today to heal this world that we've sacrificed so much to save. For the first time, the Earthen Ring and the Cenarian Circle will unite to restore this great tree, thereby healing the whole of Azeroth.
Time is precious, sister. Let us see to our ritual.
They were all really eager to take the battle to Deathwing. But first, they had to see if they could heal our broken world. At Mount Hyjal, they wanted to perform a ritual on the World Tree Ner'zhul, the same tree that had been blown up to take out Archimonde. The World Tree was healing, but just not fast enough. By infusing it with their power, the Dragon Aspects hoped to restore Ner'zhul to its former glory. Deathwing found out about their plans and decided to send out one of their newly created weapons, namely the Druids of the Flame. Using Go'el's own shamanic power, they shattered his spirit into 4 different pieces: air, water, earth, and fire. Those pieces were then scattered across the elemental planes. And while the Dragon Aspects were real quick to give up on their strongest ally, Agra was not ready to let go.
We found him! This tempest he's become. I'll try to calm it. To reach him somehow.
Failed. I have failed this world. The elements will not speak to me. The Earthen Ring has lost faith in my leadership. My weakness has delivered Azeroth into oblivion.
Go'el! It's me! Agra! Don't you know me?
Oblivion. Nothing but oblivion.
He's too far gone. We have to keep trying.
I have failed the Horde as War Chief. Garrosh will lead it to ruin. My people to ruin. Cairn, my brother. Why did I not listen?
You did what you thought best, Go'el. Fight these doubts! They're devouring your heart!
Why did I not listen? I know your faith. Agra. Oh, my heart. Can't you see? I am nothing. Selfish. All I've done, accomplished. All for the sake of pride alone. I am unworthy of you.
You are Go'el, son of Durotan and Draka, rightful war chief of the Horde. You are the orc who won my heart. Remember who you are.
Agra, it is you.
Be still, my love. Calm your mind. You became a slave to your duty, but being true to your heart is how you'll fulfill that duty. To your people, and to me. I would have it no other way.
Agra, I can't hold on. I can't.
Your world shaman is already lost to the dark fathoms. He exists now only to consume, tortured by the currents of the life he longed for, but never knew.
Look there! A vision within the torrent. Is this what Go'el longed for most? Peace with his enemies, an end to the constant warring of his world? He wished to lay down his weapon and the burdens of leadership. Another vision. I see Go'el, but it's me. Was I his deepest desire? A mate with which to share his life, his burdens and his joys? Hear me, Go'el! You are not alone! I am here with you! I will not let you go. A final vision. Ancestors. Could those be our children? This was his deepest desire. To be a father? To have a family of his own. With me. Go'el never knew his parents. It was only a few years ago that he even found his people. I should have known this was what he wanted most. Oh, Go'el. Hold on. I will free you, and you will have this life. I swear it.
You have done the impossible, shaman. You have stilled the vortex within him without losing yourself in turn. Your love for him must be very great.
The world needs him whole once again. But he's always placed the needs of others before his own. How long has he suppressed these feelings, these desires? He must embrace them and find balance, or this curse will never end.
His aspect shifts once again. You are losing him.
There! Look at him. Frozen in stone, unmoving, unfeeling. That look on his face, the resolve, the stubbornness. He gets it when he digs his heels in. I have seen it before, in Nagrand, when he refused to lay down his mantle of war chief, and again during his training. There's too many of them. I don't know how long we can hold out. Go'el, now would be a good time to wake up.
We are patient.
Did he just... Go'el? Can you hear me? We need your help. Do something. Damn you, Go'el, wake up! Don't let it end like this. We've come too far to fail now.
We are patient.
Oh, don't you tell me to be patient, you green-skinned.
Agra, I heard your voice calling me back. Where are we?
You're almost home, my love. Our time is so brief. You will change again, Go'el. But I will find you. I will never give up on you.
Agra! Agra, I can't hear! I can't... Ah! My parents, murdered before I could know them. Betrayed. Gul'dan! If I must burn my way across the afterlife, I will find you in whatever hell you've hidden. I will have my revenge. Do you hear me?
He's absolutely raging. So much anger, so much pain, and he had the strength to suppress it all these years.
Raised as a slave, to kill for human amusement.
A totem is failing.
Death
you
was
must
too
reactivate
good for Blackmore. Anyone who would enslave another deserves worse than death. All are guilty. All must pay. King Varian, you wish to make war on my people? You shall
keep
have
the totems
your
alive.
war,
Hurry!
human. You will see the fury of the Horde rage through your cities. You will see your throne split in two. This I swear. Garrosh. Garrosh.
The totem is failing. You must reactivate it. Go'el! Go'el, you must stop! Your anger is just, but it will only consume you! Fight it down or we are lost! Can you even hear me?
Agra, it is you. I am alive.
Go'el, I thought I'd lost you.
Agra, my heart. You never gave up on me. I owe you my life. Everything that I am. For I see now what I had become. So weighted down by doubt and anger. All my life, I had chosen to be a slave to fear. A thrall. Thrall sought to use that weakness against me. But what he and his Twilight Masters never understood is that the elements do not exist to rage and war. They exist to bring harmony within the world and within us. I have seen the truth, and my chains have been broken. Now, I am all that I once was, and more.
Well, you're certainly more talkative. But we must hurry back to the World Tree. The dragon aspects are waiting. And you, my love, have a world to save.
Thank you, my friend. I can never repay your service, or your friendship. Meet us back at the World Tree. There's something I want you to witness.
Very similar to the lessons that he learned earlier while partying with the aspects. Only this time, it actually took place in the game rather than in a book. Back at Mount Hyjal, we don't immediately go back into that healing ritual. There's something of much greater importance we'll have to do first.
In the face of this cataclysm, I've seen how truly fleeting our lives can be. And I, for one, will not waste another second of mine.
What are you saying, Go'el? What is in your heart?
Agra, though I was not born on Draenor, I have always tried to honor the traditions of our ancestors. I stand before you, Go'el, son of Durotan, son of Garad. And if you would have me, I would be your life mate. For so long as I live, I will stand at your side, as you have stood at mine.
I stand before you, Agralan, daughter of Rial, daughter of Sarak, and I will proudly be your mate, Go'el. In this world, or any other.
Looks like Go'el is making his dreams and desires become a reality. They didn't show it in-game, but we know that they finished the ritual for Ner'zhul. With that done, it was finally time to focus on the main threats, Deathwing, and by extension the old god N'Zoth, that wanted to bring about the Hour of Twilight, the moment in which the old gods would break out of their prisons and rule the world once more. Many different campaigns have been launched across the world of Azeroth, but to keep it focused on the story of Go'el, we'd see him take up position with the other aspects and become somewhat of an Earth Warder, the position that Deathwing was supposed to hold. Not exactly a full-blown dragon aspect, but his shamanistic connection to the element of Earth, it allowed him to substitute, bring out the combined might of the aspects. Then all they needed was a weapon to use, the Dragon Soul, taken out of the past, brought back into our timeline. Go'el and the dragon aspects then set out for Wormrest Temple to infuse the artifact with their combined might, knowing what they were up to, knowing that if his enemies succeeded, he would perish. Deathwing unleashed all of his fury at the temple to stop Go'el and the aspects. The cost on all sides were horrific. Hundreds of cultists and Twilight Dragons lost their lives, but just as many temple defenders fell in their battle. Their sacrifices were not in vain, as it allowed the dragon aspects and their allies to focus their wrath on Deathwing.
The ritual will take much from us, as it requires a very piece of our being. We will be weakened greatly.
Heroes, this burden falls to you once again. You must protect us from Deathwing's forces, while we imbue the dragon's soul with the power of the aspects.
It is good to see you again, Alexstrasza. I have been busy in my absence, twisting your pitiful whelps into mindless abominations, bent only to my will. It was a very painful process.
They are my clutch no longer. Bring them down.
Mere whelps, experiments, a means to a greater end. You will see what the research of my clutch has yielded.
For this moment alone was I made. Look upon your death, mortals, and despair. But I am all tracks.
It is done. Our power now resides within the Dragon Soul. Our fate lies with you, Earthwarder.
Taretha, Cairn, Agra, I will not fail you. I will not fail this world.
He is heading to the Maelstrom. We must stop him now. We may never get another chance if he escapes into Deepholm.
The first shot, fired by Go'el. It wasn't enough to finish the job. Quickly, we pursue Deathwing through the sky, battle our way through more of the Twilight Hammer, and then jump on the spine of Deathwing. By using the mad aspect's corrupted blood against him, we're able to peel away the plates that are holding him together, leaving him wide open for Go'el to take another shot. N'Zoth sensed that its servant was on the verge of defeat. The old god's plans were unraveling, and it made one final, desperate attempt to turn the tide, infusing Deathwing with more of its power, more than the old god had ever given the Black Dragon aspect before. This influx of energy, it was so great, that Deathwing's unstable body wrenched apart.
You have done nothing! I will tear your world apart!
Barely holding on, he makes one final, desperate attempt to fulfill their plans, but still, it wasn't enough. From platform to platform we jumped, infused by the power of the aspects, kicking him off and making room for Go'el to deliver the final blow.
I will charge you with arcane energy to blast your foes!
The end of all things. Inevitable, indomitable. I am the Cataclysm!
Such rage I have never seen. We are one step closer. The unknowable, transcendent power of the Emerald Dream. I now give unto the Dragon Soul.
Your armor means nothing.
I can feel the elements awakening, rejoicing. The Cataclysm is over.
The champions who fought at our side assured the survival of our world. But now, we must see it with mortal eyes. We dragon aspects have fulfilled our great purpose, and our ancient power is expended. But though our day draws to an end, life endures, and new generations will be born. Today's victory belongs to all who stood against the shadow. You are Azeroth's true guardians, and the future of this world is in your hands. For the dawning of the Age of Mortals has begun.
Go'el, the aspects and heroes of the world, have managed to save the day and prevent the Hour of Twilight from happening. That motion to her stomach, it means that Agra and Go'el have already started expanding their little family right through the cataclysm. The two children of his vision, a son named Durak and a daughter called Reze, they would become a reality. And while the world could desperately use Thrall back as war chief, Go'el decided to stay behind with the Earthen Ring, continue their work on healing the world. Meaning that Garrosh Hellscream also stayed on as war chief of the Horde, and he always had a different vision than Thrall. In his mind, the Horde should not have to beg or bargain. They had might and should claim whatever they needed, whatever they desired. He was going to bring war back into war chief, setting their sights on claiming the world. First step, taking out Faramore, the place where Jaina had settled after working together with Thrall. She had dreams of peace, dreams that Thrall had shared with her. But making Garrosh follow that path would be near impossible. So it was that she met with Go'el, asked him if he could perhaps return to set things right. Perhaps just arrange a meeting of sorts to make sure that Garrosh would not get out of hand. The Death of Cairn, the war with the Alliance, it didn't make him beloved with all the leaders of the Horde. Surely they could come up with some kind of agreement, some kind of peace. Go'el was not going to give up the life that he had built, or forsake the charge with the Earthen Ring. Sure enough, the news of what Garrosh had done, it weighed heavy on his heart, but it would be unfair to say that it was just Garrosh wanting this war. The Alliance had struck out their fair share as well. It seems, with Thrall gone, the only one that was still at their side who would share the vision of the world was young Anduin Wrynn, old enough to care, but too young to actually do anything about it.
Farewell, Jaina.
Go'el returned to the Maelstrom, leaving Jaina to deal with Garrosh on her own. Soon enough, the Horde marched for war, and Garrosh wasn't shy to use or do whatever to get the job done. Despite the world still reeling from the cataclysm, he had their shamans twist the elements, enslave molten giants to their will, and blew up Faramore with the use of a mana bomb. All within the city, including Jaina Proudmoore, were presumed to be dead. Word of what happened reached Go'el. He was grieving, shocked, furious. He wanted nothing more than to don armor, pick up the Doomhammer and march straight to Orgrimmar to punish Grum Hellscream's son for all the foolish, arrogant, devastating things that he had done. Garrosh was his mistake, his responsibility, and no one else's. He had tried to instill Orcish pride within Garrosh, but instead of taking the best of his father's lessons, the young Hellscream had taken the worst. But he couldn't go, could not satisfy his pain. Not yet. Even if Jaina Proudmoore's ghost were to show up and cry for vengeance right this moment, he would have to tell her no. Nothing is greater than this duty right now, so he stayed at the Maelstrom. Meanwhile, Jaina had survived the attack and made her own plans of getting revenge. She gathered a massive tidal wave to flood all of Orgrimmar in one single sweep. Garrosh, their warriors, but also the children, all the other innocents inside would feel her wrath, and far away, Go'el received a call from the elements. She was forcing them to do something they did not want to do, so her world shaman was summoned to stop her. Not as easy as you might think. Despite the long-time friendship, he was unable to get through to her. Part of the blame was on his shoulders after all, so they entered an epic battle for control over the tidal wave. One which a powered-up Jaina was easily winning. Thrall wouldn't let this happen though, not as long as he was still alive, and Jaina was ready to fix that, to end his life, just as the blue dragon Calico showed up. He was able to get through to her, convince her that she doesn't want to become an Arthas. Together, they're able to push her away from this plan, to not let innocents pay for the crimes of the war chief, and instead, she used the tidal wave to defeat Garrosh, but Orgrimmar and the Horde still stood. Their coming war would rock the world every bit as the Cataclysm had, and the casualties would be many. Amongst them was the friendship between Jaina and Thrall. It would be a long, long time, if ever, before she could call Thrall friend again, and she knew that he knew. With deep sadness in his heart, Go'el went back to the Maelstrom to continue his work, while War Chief Garrosh pushed on with his plans of war. Pandaria was discovered, a land full of resources, people, and weapons that Garrosh was mighty interested in. Throughout the expansion, more and more of the leaders of the Horde, they opened their eyes to the path that the War Chief was guiding them on. all with the strength to stand at his side, were welcomed within his Horde. But this was not the family that Thrall had built. This was not the vision of the Horde as they saw it. It all reached its peak when Vol'jin of the Darkspear Trolls spoke out and got his throat sliced for the efforts. Barely clinging on to life, he found by his old friend Chen Stormstout. He hands us his Hearthstone, tells us to go find Thrall. At the Valley of Trials, we see him there, together with Agra and their newborn child. Where once he had decided to stay out of the affairs, he now believes the situation to be dire enough to step in. The Echo Isles have been placed under martial law by the war chief. There's Horde fighting against Horde here. Thrall can't believe what has happened to their family. They don't even answer to him anymore, as the new war chief has reminded them that they're strong. So Go'el, he has no other choice but to strike out. Clean out enough of the Kor'kron so that the Darkspears can reclaim their isle. He has some really hard decisions to make, and next time that we see him is with the Darkspear Rebellion. Vol'jin has regained his strength, is ready to lead the Horde and kick Garrosh out of the mantle of War Chief. In an epic team-up, we see Go'el take the stage and kick some ass. But what has to be done does not come easy.
Wait, Vol'jin. Horde is spilling Horde blood. It's tearing me apart.
We need you, man.
I know. I trust you to lead the siege. I am needed elsewhere. I refuse to believe that all of my brethren support Garrosh. I am going to Orgrimmar, alone. Eitrigg, Saurfang, surely they are standing against Garrosh. I must find others.
You set one foot in Orgrimmar, Hellscream gonna bury a knife in your neck.
It's a risk I have to take. But if I am killed, please, watch over Agra and my boy.
I won't hear you say such things.
It has to be said, Vol'jin. If we don't make it through this, I want you to know you have always been my friend, my brother.
For the Horde.
For the Horde.
And so, the Alliance and Horde combined their forces and went through the siege of Orgrimmar, with Thrall and Saurfang going in ahead. In the past, Garrosh has stood little chance against his war chief, but now he has the power of an old god on his side, and he has come prepared.
It is not too late, Garrosh. Lay down the mantle of war chief. We can end this here, now, with no more bloodshed.
Ha! Do you remember nothing of honor, of glory on a battlefield? You who would parley with the humans, who allowed warlocks to practice their dark magics right under our feet. You are weak. We are the Orcish Horde, the true Horde. We die, bloody and thrashing on the field of battle, like true orcs should. You are an orc no longer, and speak for none but yourself. You betrayed our people to forge your fragile alliances, and I will take great pleasure in tearing them apart.
Then you have forced my hand. I will correct the mistake I made long ago.
Spirits of the wind, the earth, the water, hear my call! Come to my aid! Fool! My dark shaman have twisted and tortured the elements for miles around. They cannot hear you now. Once again, you prove too weak and powerless to do anything.
Never powerless, Garrosh. And never alone.
So, you wish to face off against a real orc war chief. So be it.
With the elements in turmoil, and the old god Yasharaj empowering the war chief, It fell to the heroes to do what had to be done, after draining the heart completely, showing us all the future that Hellscream had dreamed of. We put an end to his reign, but not to his life.
You disappoint me, Garrosh. You are not worthy of your father's legacy.
His punishment is not for you alone to decide.
I won't let you take him.
We have all suffered from his atrocities. My people, more than any other. Let him stand trial in Pandaria. There, we will mete out justice for all.
The Horde's leader is taken captive, and it's Vol'jin that had held them together. So Thrall decides to appoint him to be the new war chief. A trial was gonna decide the fate of Hellscream, or at least so they thought. Go'el's biggest mistake was released from prison by the bronze dragon Kairos Dormu, who then took him into an alternate reality, an alternate Draenor before the orcs drank demonic blood. Changing events in already changed reality, it gave rise to the Iron Horde, led by none other than War Chief Grommash Hellscream. And while the origins is different, under Garrus's guidance they still set their sights on our Azeroth. The Dark Portal turned red, and heroes stepped through, Go'el included, to chase down Garrosh and stop this threat. This was also an opportunity for Go'el to meet with his parents, see Durthan and Draka in action, even if they were only an alternate version. Sadly, they didn't do a whole lot with that opportunity. They didn't really dive into their family relations, or have a whole lot of interactions between Thrall and the orcs that had meant so much during his life. Instead, the focus on Go'el was mainly on getting to Garrosh, clean up the mistakes that he had made. At the Stones of Prophecy, where in our reality, Thrall had shown Garrosh the truth of his father, instilled a sense of pride within his heart, the two orcs entered the Mak'gora.
You must answer for your crimes, Garrosh.
All I did it for the Horde! You failed the Horde! You made me war chief! You left me to pick up your pieces! You failed me! You never had the strength of a true warrior.
I do not rely on strength alone, Garrosh. My power is all around you.
You made me what I am!
No. You chose your own destiny.
There are those out there who believe Thrall cheated by using the elements, and that is the reason why he had so much trouble connecting with them after his execution. I personally don't believe that he cheated, but that's neither here nor there. The whole part about the elements not coming to his aid, that has more to do with his inner turmoil. Similarly to when he was so unfocused within the Cataclysm, dealing with Garrosh, it was a massive blow to Thrall. He did what he had to do, but he still ended the life of the son of Grum, the son of his brother. Garrosh also said some strong words during their fights, and while Thrall rebukes them, there is some truth to them, and he knows it. It was his decision to appoint Garrosh as warchief in his absence, hoping beyond hope that the promise, the potential that he saw within the older orc, that it would make him a great leader. The Death of Cairn, the bombing of Fedamore, the destruction in Pandaria, and so much more. Thrall is and feels partially responsible for it all, which is why he's having trouble grounding himself, connecting with the elements. A problem to be sure, especially when the next threat showed up. The biggest invasion of the Burning Legion as of yet. This time, the Horde and Alliance are working together. On the Broken Shore, they try to stop the Legion. But the might of the demons, it's too much to handle. Go'el crawls on the ground, and the Horde is forced to call the retreats, abandoning the Alliance to their fates. In turn, Varian Wind sacrificed himself to buy his people their escape, as Vol'jin's life is also ended before he could do anything meaningful as Warchief. He passes on the title to Sylvanas Windrunner, while Go'el calls upon shamans to join the Earthen Ring for an emergency meeting at the Maelstrom. The greatest shamans of the world are gathering there, but not even the Maelstrom is safe from the Legion, as Gefzun and his troops, they show up to crash the meeting.
I've got this one, Shaman. Help the others!
Are you the so-called World Shaman? Ha! You fight like a crippled bird! You will die! Your precious earthen ring will shatter! Your world will succumb! The Legion will...
The Doomhammer.
We're able to repel the attack, but the demon, as well as the Doomhammer, have fallen into the Maelstrom, all the way down to the elemental plane of Deepholm. It would be wise to keep it from falling into the wrong hands, so we quickly go after it.
Thrall, that demon is still alive down here!
All the more reason to get to the Doomhammer first. Doomhammer. It felt like dead weight in my hands. The elements were silent. It has been this way since I used it to slay Garrosh.
Keep your eyes on Thrall. He's wounded. He's likely to kill himself down here. And I don't want to be the one who has to tell his wife. Watch it! That thing's corrupted by the Fel! Kill it!
I remember the night Orgrim fell. Run through by a knight's lance during the liberation of the last orc internment camp. As he bled out onto the fields of Arathi, he bestowed the Doomhammer to me. The Doomhammer is not merely a weapon. It is a symbol of hope, of power. Proof that an individual can change the world. We've got to keep moving. Gefzun is close.
Look! There he is!
What is this sorcery? This hammer. I must claim it for my masters.
Shaman, we can't let that weapon fall to the wrong hands. I'll distract him. You grab the Doomhammer. No time to argue. Go! Hey, you there! Me bird crap scarier demons than you! Oh, aye! Come get some!
The Doomhammer! Get the Doomhammer! Prove your power as a shaman!
You got it! Oh!
Pathetic, puny shaman! That hammer did little to help its last master.
I will bring down this whole cavern! I will corrupt your sorry world from within! The whole of Azeroth will rise against you, demon! The very earth beneath your feet and the skies above your head will lash out against your damned crusade! There are others. We are Legion.
I think I'm done, Shaman. It's the end of the tunnel for me. May the ancestors...
Thank you.
The Doomhammer chose you, Shaman. Already you wield it with a power that I never tapped into. I must go my own way. I have a great deal of thinking to do. Agra will be at the Maelstrom shortly. Listen to her counsel. She has taught me so much. Go back to the Earthen Ring. Bring them together. Turn their might against the Legion. This is your time.
Our connection to the elements. It allows us to tap into power that not even the world Shaman Go'el was able to tap into. We take the lead in the battle against the Legion, as clearly Go'el has a lot of soul searching to do. Azeroth earned their victory, and then returned home to a wounded world. Sylvanas Windrunner was going to bring their war back in Warchief, setting her sights on killing the worlds. First step, taking on Darnassus. The expansion Battle for Azeroth, in which Sylvanas made Garrosh look like an amateur. But still, the story was very much the same. The world rose up against her, made ready to kick another warchief out of Orgrimmar. Throughout it all, Thrall remained pretty much absent, living his life with his family in the Grant. That is, until Sourfang showed up in need of his aid.
So, this is home now.
Home. Family.
And where are they?
Not far.
This world... well, it looks good. But it's wrong. Broken. Falling apart. Just like the Horde. Do you know what she's done while you've been hiding?
I left that life behind. I'm no one's savior. I will not lead the Horde.
I didn't ask. But I hoped you would at least fight for it.
You were followed!
I followed them. You and I, we don't get to hide.
As far as I can tell, we see Sylvanas sending out assassins to take care of Go'el before he could come back and become a threat. I do wonder how she could think that 2 assassins were going to be enough to take him down, and why the assassins didn't wait with their attack to either hear Go'el's answer or catch him without Saurfang there. Either way, regardless, the old soldier is able to convince him to come back. In the meantime, Bane Bloodhoof has gone against his warchief's wishes and aided Jaina by returning her brother. He's now held captive within Orgrimmar, bait to take another shot at ending some powerful threats. But working together, our heroes manage to escape with their lives, and they rescue Bane.
Thank you. Bane would have died without your aid.
I couldn't let that happen.
Nor could I. I refuse to fail him, like I failed his father. I wish I could change it all. Cairn, Garrosh, Theramore. Sometimes it feels like I did everything wrong.
We all have blood on our hands.
And now, Sylvanas will come. Thunder Bluff will burn, just like Teldrassil.
Once before, you and I stood side by side on the slopes of Mount Hyjal. That world tree did not fall, because the Horde and the Alliance worked together.
Horde, Alliance. We've come to this crossroad again and again, Jaina. It always falls apart. What's different this time?
We are.
Once more, the Alliance and Horde gathered for a siege of Orgrimmar. Except no war would have to be fought. Varrock takes it upon himself to challenge Sylvanas to Mak'gora, a duel in which he does lose his life, but he also earns victory. He exposes her, showing them all that she has no love for the Hordes, to which she flies off into the next expansion. Thrall still refused to become warchief again. After all that has happened, it was time for the Horde to change. They would now have a council. All voices of the different races, the different families would be represented. That's something that he would be a part of, to fight for his beloved Hordes. Quite the difference compared to where it all started from, and yet also very similar. Despite wanting to change and wanted to go towards some kind of peace with the Alliance, there were those that could not forgive and forget what Sylvanas and the Horde had done, and there were many that wanted to bring Windrunner to justice. But unlike Garrosh, she was not taken prisoner, nor was she placed on trial. She pursued her dark schemes by shattering the Helmet of Domination, opening up the veil between Azeroth and the Shadowlands. Her Valkyr then fly out and kidnap Bane, Anduin, Jaina and Thrall. They also try to take Tyrande with them, but she's a little bit too much to handle. Off they go, a one-way trip into Hell, or the Maw as it's called, where Sylvanas' ally the Jailer is imprisoned. He wants to break out and make his way to Zed of Mortis, also known as First One's Land. To make those dreams come true, he needs someone special, perhaps someone like Thrall. The heroes of Azeroth are summoned to go after them and save their leaders. The first time they try, it doesn't really work out, as the Waystone, their ticket out of the Maw, it only responds to the heroes for some kind of reason, meaning that Thrall and the others, they're forced to stay behind. Enjoy the hospitality of the Jailer for just a bit longer.
Whoever you are, whatever you want, I will fight you. You will not break me.
After partying through the Shadowlands, fixing problems and making allies, the heroes go back into Torghast, home base of the Jailer where our allies are kept. Eventually, they track down Thrall. So far, we've seen him swing his new weapon around, which is called Dragora, which means Draenor's Honor. After throwing it at Helya, he have tried out a couple of different ones, but all the same, he's sticking with his weaponry rather than his shamanistic gifts.
Elements, hear me. Give me the strength to...
For some reason, the Torment of Torghast, it changes that, and he wields the elements once more. Together we escape. And the only one that's left behind, the only one they were unable to save, is Anduin Wrynn. The Jailer has his eyes on him, as Anduin is exactly what he's been looking for. A puppet to get him those sigils he desires. We try to stop them, of course, but we fail horribly. The Jailer's plans push on ahead, and under the guidance of the Primus, we prepare ourselves for the worst case scenario. We reforge the sigils, while also taking on the forces of the Jailer within the Maw. Now being here in the Shadowlands, being in the afterlife, It does mean that Thrall finally has the chance to meet with his parents, or at the very least meet with his mother Draka, as we haven't seen Durotan.
I knew who you were the moment I saw you. Do you really think I would not recognize Durotan's eyes? You were but a babe when I died. Tell me, who have you grown to be?
I was once war chief of the Horde, the shaman of the Earthen Ring.
That is who you were. Who are you now?
I am uncertain. Much has happened in my life. I do not know where it will lead next.
A lesson, then. Not from mother to child, but from one similar soul to another. Remember who you were, but take pride in who you are. I once thought death was the end, but now, as a warrior of Maldraxxus, I see that it was only the beginning. It brings me joy to see how far you have come. And I know you have much farther to go.
Thank you, Mother. I will make you proud.
Come. I wish to know more of your life. All of it.
Quite sweet, but we don't have a whole lot of time to catch up. Not with the jailer getting ever closer at breaking out. Thrall joined us into the Sanctum of Domination, where we fought our way all the way to the top. Sylvanas and Anduin, they keep us busy, while the jailer reclaims the powers from the Arbiter. At last, he has all he needs to fulfill his master plan, whatever that might be.
Reality's end.
Cannot let him reach thee.
And that's pretty much where we're at for the story of Go'el. The story of Thrall, World Shaman and War Chief of the Horde. The storyline in the Shadowlands, it will have us chase after the jailer into Zereth Mortis, uncover more secrets of the first ones, and of course, try to stop the jailer. Sylvanas is left behind in our custody with her soul now restored. Time will tell what the conclusion of that story is going to be. It's interesting when you just take a step back and look at the long road that Thrall was given. If there's one character that symbolizes Warcraft, Thrall is definitely up there. From slave gladiator to war chief of the Horde, reforming it from its corrupted dark origins into a family, trying to carve out a piece of the world that they could call home. They then took him on a journey of becoming this world shaman, standing right there with the dragon aspects in their battle against Deathwing and Ner'zhul. He became a bit larger than life. At least I recall the feedback back then that they made him a little bit too important, so they decided to push him back a bit. Not to mention that Chris Metzen also left the company. They pushed him more into the role of a family man, and yet they were unable to let him go. Bring him right back into conflicts, into this new council that rules the Horde and into the Shadowlands. What more can they do with his character, I wonder? Is it perhaps time for him to enjoy a nice and peaceful retirement? Perhaps so, but not right now. Not when we still have the Shadowlands to finish. So for now, thank you very much for watching, everyone. I really hope you enjoyed the deep dive into the story of Thrall. Subscribe if you like my videos, leave a like if you enjoyed this one, and until next time, see ya!